Hello and welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children, the podcast where I share the recordings of the bedtime stories I've told my children. Tonight is the fourth night of our pre-Christmas story marathon with a new story every night. When last we left Winella, she was trying to decide what to do. She wasn't sure whether she should help the math fairies, help Strychnine, or neither one. And so in tonight's story, she travels to see her friend Flibbertygibit, the king of the cats, and seek his advice. I hope you're enjoying the pre-Christmas marathon. Winella stepped off the cat's paw highway.
But she went on
She
the
had
cat's paw
changed
highway?
she had changed her clothes and gotten a good night's sleep and a good breakfast. And now she walked up the steps of Flibbertygibit's palace. She really felt that she needed to have a talk with him. She looked for him first in the throne room, but he wasn't there. She figured that it was early, that perhaps he was in the kitchen. So she walked in, and he was indeed in the kitchen. None of the cooks were up yet. He had gotten up bright and early and was making himself some breakfast.
Oh, Winella, how nice to see you. You are just in time for breakfast.
Early is spelled E-A-R-L-Y.
Would you like to have some breakfast with me?
I don't know, Flibbertygibit, what are you having?
I'm having a very tasty breakfast. I'm having a tuna fish mixed with a yogurt and with some strawberries on the top.
Tuna fish with strawberries and yogurt?
Oh yes, it is very good.
Ew.
Well, you know,
Ew.
I appreciate the offer, and I do like tuna fish, but I already had breakfast before I came this morning.
Oh, all right. Well, you would not mind if I eat while we talk?
Of course not. Go right ahead.
Oh, thank you. I have to say grace.
And the big tiger closed his eyes for a minute, and then he opened them and took a bite of the yogurt and tuna fish and strawberries.
He said, what brings you to the palace so early this morning, Winella?
Winella said, you know, I'm feeling confused, Flibbertygibit.
Confused? Why are you feeling confused?
Well, she said, let me tell you about Integer and Strychnine and the math fairies.
Oh, you have met some new fairies? I do not know these fairies.
And then she told him all about Integer and the proof, and how Strychnine had come and she had changed everything in Integer, and how the math fairies had asked Winella to come and help them, and how she had found that she sort of liked Strychnine, and that even though Strychnine was messing things up in Integer, she was sort of nice, and she was sort of funny, and she was fun to play with. And Winella wasn't really sure
And
if she...
she's also a weird fairy.
She is weird. Winella wasn't really sure whether she wanted to help the math fairies get the last bit of the proof back, because she thought that maybe Strychnine was right. Maybe things did need sort of changed a little bit in Integer. And so she just felt confused and wasn't sure what she should do. And Flibbertygibit said,
Oh, I see. One moment, please.
and he took another big bite of tuna fish and yogurt and strawberries. And he said, after he had finished,
Oh, that was very tasty. He said, Winella, I think you know already what you should do.
She said, I don't think I do. He said,
let me ask you this question. What color are the colors in your room?
and Winella said, well, everything in my room is pink and blue except for the ceiling fan.
Oh.
The purple ceiling fan.
He said, and what color is the ceiling fan?
And she said, the ceiling fan is purple.
I see. He said, now, tell me something. He said, suppose I do not like pink and blue.
She said, you don't like pink and blue?
He said, just suppose, so we can talk about it.
Winella said, okay.
He said, suppose I come to a room and I decided that I am the king of the cats. Am I not? And she said, yes, you are. And he said, suppose I decided that I was going to repaint your room. I am going to repaint it to be a black and orange stripes, because those are much better colors than a pink and blue. And Winella said, well, but it's not your room. Ah, but I am the king of the cats, am I not? Yes, that's true, and I'm a lot of fun to be around, am I not? Well, yes, but it's not right. It's not your... Ah. So you think that even if I am the king of the cats, and even if I have helped you on many adventures, and even if I think that the pink and blue are not the nicer colors, and the stripes are much nicer colors, and I am a lot of fun to be around, and I even let you help with the repainting, you're saying that does not give me the right to repaint your room? And Winella said, no, it doesn't give you the right to repaint my room. It's not your room. It's my room. And Flibbertygibit said, oh, I see what you mean. Now, tell me, Winella, do you see what you mean? And Winella said, oh, I do understand what you mean.
She needs to help the math fairies.
You mean that integer is like my room for the math fairies. It's their place. And even if Strychnine is fun, and even if I like her, and even if she has a good sense of humor, and even if the things she does are sort of silly and funny, that doesn't give her the right to change somebody else's place. Flibbertygibit said, if you say so. It sounds to me like you have a very solid grasp of the situation. You are almost a very smart little girl. Almost a very smart little girl? Why am I only almost a very smart little girl? Because if you are a very smart little girl, you would eat a tuna fish with yogurt and strawberries, like me. Winella said, thank you, Flibbertygibit. And she gave him a big hug around his shaggy neck. Yes, what do you need to tell me?
When I was wanting to look at the Christmas tree at the gym, I bit my tongue because I bumped into Rebecca.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you all want to hear the rest of the story?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Winella walked out of the palace, and she had a little bit of a skip in her step, because for the first time in several days, she felt like she knew what she should do. It's no fun being confused, and she had felt confused for a couple days now. She wasn't really worried about how she was going to get the rest of the proof away from Strychnine. She had confidence that she would be able to do it. And so she took the Cat's Paw Highway, and she arrived back in Integer, and it was strange, because no sooner had she stepped off the Cat's Paw Highway and taken 3 steps than she found herself in a clearing, and there in the middle of the clearing, fast asleep on the ground, was Strychnine. Winella walked up to her. She could see the piece of the proof sitting around her neck on a necklace. Winella thought, I should just take it. I should just take it and give it back to the math fairies. It's not hers anyway. And Winella thought, no, that's not the way I'm going to do this. And she put her hand on Strychnine's shoulder, and she shook her just a little bit, and Strychnine's eyes opened, and she said, well, hello, Winella. What do you want? Have you come to play? Winella said, no, Strychnine, I'm not come to play right now. Right now, I need you to give me the rest of the proof back. It's not yours. Strychnine said, no, come on, Winella, let's play. Winella said, I do want to play with you, and we will play, but not until you've given me what doesn't belong to you back. But how can we have fun? The math fairies are going to make everything stuffy and right. And Winella said, you know what, Strychnine? This isn't your room. You can't paint it tiger stripes.
Strychnine laughed. She said, what are you talking about, tiger stripes, Winella? You're so silly. And Winella said, yeah, I am silly, Strychnine. But you know what else? Integer isn't your place. You need a place of your own that you can make silly and crazy and wonderful. And I will promise you this. If you will give me back the rest of the proof, I will search out a new place that you can make a land of your own, that you can make as silly and crazy as you want. And I will come and I will bring my friends and I will play with you there. And Strychnine stopped. And she looked at her. And she said, really? Really what? Said Winella. Strychnine said, really? You'll be my friend and you'll come and you'll play with me? And Winella said, well, yeah, I think you're fun, Strychnine. Strychnine's eyes filled with tears. She said, I've never had anybody who was my friend and wanted to come and play with me before. She said, that's wonderful. She said, here. And she took the proof off her neck and she handed it to Winella. She said, you'll come and find me when you find a place? And Winella said, yes, I will. Strychnine said, okay, here. And she took a little gem out of her pocket. She said, here, when you find a place for me, you take this gem and you squeeze it as hard as you can and you think my name and I will come. And Winella said, it's a deal. And she held out her hand and Strychnine shook it. And then Strychnine left with a poof of fairy magic. Winella turned and she walked back to the numeral castle. Addition and subtraction were out front playing a game that looked an awful lot like tag, except it seemed to be some sort of freeze tag, where if you got frozen, the other person gave you a math problem, and if you could solve it, then you got unfrozen. Winella thought that it actually looked kind of fun. As she walked up, addition and subtraction stopped. They saw what Winella had in her hand, and their mouths dropped open. They said, oh, you brought it back. Winella handed it to them. She said, Strychnine has gone away. She will not trouble you anymore. They said, hey, multiplicia, division, come here. Look what Winella did. She got it for us. The fairies all gathered around. They hugged Winella, and they cheered, and then they took it inside, and they reunited it with the rest of the proof. And then all 4 math fairies put their hands on it, and the proof began to glow, and it glowed brighter and brighter until Winella had to close her eyes. And she heard all the fairies heave a great sigh of relief. And when Winella opened her eyes, the numeral castle around her was so beautiful that it took her breath away. The walls were all smooth and even and perfect, encrusted with numbers made out of diamonds and rubies and emeralds. They were all the perfect height with beautiful towers, and surrounded by beautiful gardens where trees and bushes were cut into the shapes of numbers and shapes and patterns. Winella said, this garden looks really interesting. I have to come back and explore sometime. The math fairies said, well, here, we have something to give you. And they gave her a key. Winella said, what's this? They said, this is the key to Numeral Castle. You can come here any time, whether we're here or not. And you don't have to, you can get here any way you want just by holding up the key and thinking of the castle, and you will be here. And Winella said, thank you, my friends. And they said, no, Winella, thank you. The music fairies were right about you. And she waved goodbye to them and got back on the Catspaw Highway and went home.
Can we tell the story of Strychnine and Winella finding the place as part of the story?
We'll see.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was created by Brandon Thompson. Your reviews and personal recommendations are the main way that new listeners find the show, so thank you for spreading the word. I'd love to hear your feedback, so feel free to get in touch via email or social media, which are listed in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.